I mentioned in my previous review that the episode I was reviewing, Back to the Kindergarten, was probably technically speaking the best episode of this recent bomb, but that despite that, it wasn't my favorite. And that is solely because this episode, Sadie Killer, exists. I honestly can't recall how much I've talked about it here on the channel, but I have mentioned a few times over on my Tumblr page that Sadie is one of my favorite characters in the show. As far as the human characters in the show go, I find her to be the most appealing and most relatable. Even after everything that's happened to Lars recently, I still like Sadie better as a character and I'm more drawn to her stories. And that's why I've been so hard on her characterization in the past. It always seems like the writers didn't know what to do with her except to characterize her in context with Lars. Everything that we learned about Sadie was always in the context of how she felt about Lars, how she related to Lars, what was going on in Lars's life. And Sadie is, put frankly, a good enough character that she doesn't deserve that. She doesn't deserve to be a supporting character who only supports other supporting characters. She has, in fact, even shown potential to be a main character on par with someone like Connie. And so this bomb, following in the example of Steven and Connie and Peridot and Lapis, takes the separation between Sadie and Lars as an opportunity to develop Sadie individually as a character, something which I am super happy about. We know from recent episodes that Sadie has been spending more and more time with the cool kids recently, that they've become more her prospective friends rather than Lars's prospective friends. So despite the fact that Sadie is now the only employee working at the Big Donut with Lars off in space, despite the fact that she is working double shifts and she is stressed out so bad, she still wants to hang out with them, especially when she finds out they're starting to form a band. I don't think her intention was ever to become part of the band just to see them practice, but when they realize how tight her schedule is and so take the opportunity to go to her house sometime when she's off, to spend time with her there, that's what ends up happening. She ends up becoming part of their band almost organically. She just falls right into the role. It's beautiful. They start out watching horror movies, because as we know, Sadie loves classic horror. And for some reason she thought that the cool kids would think less of her if they found out, which I thought was odd, but they do find out, and they're super psyched, and they decide to watch an old movie. They'd been up to this point struggling to find a sound that all of them can live with. Even Steven can't bring them together on that. Everything that he wants to do is too upbeat for the rest of them. But as they're watching Sadie's movies, they realize they really like the horror sound. You know, the kind of score that you would get in those classic horror movies. And so they start jamming out to something like that, kind of go in their own direction with it, and Sadie provides the lyrics. They just fall out of her mouth. She adopts this zombie-esque persona, Sadie Killer, and sings a horror-themed song about the stresses of working a crappy dead-end job. And it's a full freaking pop song. It's got actual verses and choruses, and it's well-produced. It feels even a step above some of the other stuff we've seen in the show before, the kind of impromptu songs that we get every so often. And when Sadie sees how much everybody's enjoying her performance, she rolls with it, and she goes all out with it. It's great. It's the most open and the happiest that we've seen Sadie probably ever in the show. And by the end of the episode, the whole experience has inspired Sadie to quit her job. She's so stressed out by it at this point that the benefits don't outweigh that stress anymore. So she quits her job and she's going to spend more time with her friends, and I think that's fantastic. This is such a great development for her character. Any shake-up to the status quo at this point in Steven Universe, especially among the Beach City characters, is going to have a positive effect on the show. That's a given. The Beach City episodes are super stale at this point. Shaking up the status quo of those episodes is a good thing. And doing so in such a way that it opens up more character personalities for Sadie, that has me super excited. By the time that Lars gets back to Earth, he's going to be a completely different character, and Sadie is going to be a completely different character, and we're going to see them grow together again as new people, because I'm sure they're going to grow together again. I'm positive that that's going to happen. I also think it's really interesting that the persona that Sadie took on during her song was a zombie persona, when she just recently heard that Lars is basically a zombie now. I wonder if that affected her choice on a subconscious level. Maybe Lars' situation is even indirectly responsible for Sadie coming up with the lyrics that she did. Not that her lyrics wouldn't have been great either way, just that these specific lyrics came out of her mouth because of Lars' situation. Maybe part of her is jealous that Lars is off on another planet on an adventure, while she's stuck at home working this crappy minimum wage job. Maybe that even subconsciously influenced her decision to quit, which is great. I'm cool with Lars' lasting influence on her and forming her character. I just don't want her to only be able to grow as a character because Lars is growing as a character. I don't want her development to have to be dependent on him being there. I'm super excited by all of the possibilities that this opens up, all of the things that this could mean for Sadie's characterization going forward. I don't know where the crew is going to take this. I don't know if they're going to try to turn Sadie into a rock star, have her learn a bunch of stuff from the attempt and then come back to her old life. I have no idea. There are so many possibilities now that I don't know where they're going, and that's a great thing. I'll tell you this, though. I'm expecting more songs from this group, at the very least. And I hope we get them. Whatever Sadie and Steven and the cool kids end up calling their group, I hope they stay together, and I hope they do more stuff on the show, because they sounded great. All that said, though, guys, what did you think of this episode if you have seen it? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below. Either way, this has been AJ22, and I will talk to you later.
Oh, we are the working dead, and we lurch for minimum wage. but I'd really rather be eating your brain.